What happens when a police chief's daughter calls her father from inside a courtroom expecting rescue and hears him say the words that break her world? This wasn't a movie. It wasn't a script. It was real. It happened on a Wednesday morning at 10:45 a.m. in Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom. Ashley Morrison was only 22. Dressed in designer leggings and carrying a purse worth more than most people's rent, she walked into court with the same confidence that had shielded her from consequences her entire life. She had been drinking. She crashed her car into a graduate student's vehicle. She fled the scene. And she told bystanders, "My dad's the police chief. He'll take care of it." Everyone expected a slap on the wrist, maybe a fine, maybe a warning. But nobody expected what happened when Judge Caprio told Ashley, "Call your father, right now, on speakerphone." What followed was the most devastating phone call ever made in that courtroom. A call that millions would later watch. A call that shattered the illusion of privilege and reminded the world what real integrity sounds like. If you believe being the daughter of a police chief shouldn't put you above the law, if you believe that love sometimes means holding someone accountable, subscribe right now. Because what you're about to hear isn't just justice. It's a lesson every parent and every child needs to witness. It was a cold November night when Ashley Morrison made a choice that would unravel everything her last name once protected. Earlier that evening, she had been at a private gathering near Brown University. Drinks flowed freely. Music was loud. And like many 22-year-olds who'd never been told no, Ashley believed the world would bend for her. By 11:30 p.m., she was behind the wheel of her Audi, weaving through the narrow lanes of Thayer Street, barely missing parked cars. Witnesses said she ran at least one red light. A few blocks later, she slammed into a legally parked Honda. The airbags in her car deployed. The impact was loud enough to shake nearby apartments. Inside one of those apartments, graduate student Sarah Chen looked up from her desk. Sarah was 26. She was pursuing a doctorate in neurobiology. That car, the Honda, was her only way to campus to work to her mother's medical appointments, and now it sat crushed, its frame buckled passenger side, demolished. Sarah rushed outside in slippers and a sweatshirt. She saw the wreck, saw Ashley. Ashley was standing outside, her Audi hair, perfect makeup, flawless but clearly intoxicated. Her speech was slurred. She swayed as she stood. And when Sarah asked gently, "Are you okay?" Ashley didn't answer with gratitude or apology. Instead, she said, "Get away from me. This isn't your business." Then she did something that stunned Sarah. She grabbed Sarah's phone and hurled it into the street, shattering the screen. "I don't need cops involved," Ashley muttered. "My dad is the police chief. He'll handle it." She didn't ask if Sarah was hurt. She didn't offer insurance information. Instead, she pulled out her own phone, ordered a rideshare, and disappeared into the night, leaving behind wreckage, confusion, and a stunned young woman staring at the pieces of her only transportation. The next morning, police officers traced the license plate to Ashley's home. When they arrived, she denied everything. "No," she said. "I wasn't in any accident. Maybe someone stole my car, but the Audi was already in a repair shop. The mechanics had logged the damage." And when officers confronted her with this, she shifted the story. "Okay, maybe I hit a pole in a parking lot. It wasn't a big deal." She never mentioned Sarah, never acknowledged the destroyed car, never admitted to throwing a phone or fleeing a scene. It was all just a misunderstanding, she said, and her dad, Chief Morrison, would make it go away. But in Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom, stories don't vanish. Lies don't hold up. And arrogance only makes the truth louder. Wednesday morning, 10:45 a.m. The courtroom was quiet, save for the soft rustle of papers and the occasional shuffle of feet. Then the bailiff called the next case, the State of Rhode Island versus Ashley Morrison. She entered like she owned the room. Designer puffer jacket, luxury leggings, her phone still in her hand. She didn't even look up at Judge Frank Caprio as she walked to the defendant's table, texting until the very last step. When he asked her to put her phone away, she didn't speak, just held up one finger and tapped send. No apology, no humility, just entitlement. Her public defender, Marcus Chen, stood beside her, looking like a man trying to hold a leaking dam with duct tape. He whispered to Ashley quiet, urgent words of caution. She waved him off with a flick of her hand. Judge Caprio opened the file. His voice was calm but cool. "Ms. Ashley Morrison, you are charged with driving under the influence, reckless endangerment, leaving the scene of an accident and destruction of property. Do you understand these charges?" Ashley gave a half shrug. "Yeah, I get it. But my dad's the police chief. He'll clear this up." It was the wrong thing to say, and she said it too easily. Judge Caprio removed his glasses, slowly, deliberately. Those who've watched him for years know what that means. He's done being patient. Miss Morrison, he said, I asked if you understand the charges, not whether you think they matter. She looked annoyed. It's all being blown out of proportion. Caprio turned to the prosecution. Assistant District Attorney Rachel Foster rose from her seat, case file in hand. Your Honor, the facts are clear. On the night of November 3rd at approximately 11:30 p.m., Miss Morrison was seen driving erratically near Thayer Street. She ran a red light, nearly hit parked cars, and at 11:47 p.m. she collided with a parked vehicle belonging to Miss Sarah Chen. Ashley interrupted. Those witnesses were probably drunk college kids. The judge didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Miss Morrison, interrupt the prosecutor again, and I will hold you in contempt. Is that clear? She rolled her eyes, but said nothing. Foster continued. Ashley had fled the scene. She'd thrown the victim's phone and refused to provide any insurance info before leaving in a rideshare. A young woman had been left behind staring at her totaled car holding a broken phone and wondering how her life just fell apart. Then Sarah Chen stood to testify. She wore no makeup. Her clothes were plain. Her voice shook. I just wanted to see if the driver was okay, she said. But when I asked, she told me to get away. Then she threw my phone and left. She never looked back. The courtroom was silent. Sarah spoke of the damage. $8,000 in repairs. Her only car gone. Now she took buses. Added 2 hours to her daily commute. Missed research labs. Skipped work shifts. When she finished, she returned to her seat slowly. The room stayed quiet, but the tension was thick. Judge Caprio looked at Ashley. Miss Morrison, do you dispute any of that testimony? She stood, her tone cold, defensive. That girl is exaggerating. I barely tapped her car. My Audi had more damage than her beat-up Honda. And I didn't throw her phone. She dropped it. Gasps swept through the gallery. The judge didn't respond immediately. He just studied her, measured her. Then he spoke, quietly. You called your father the police chief. You expected his name to erase what happened. But what I see is a young woman who caused harm, lied about it, and came here with no remorse. Ashley's arms crossed. Everyone wants to blame the person with the nice car. What she didn't know was this. Her father was about to answer her call, and he would break her illusion in front of the entire world. Judge Caprio sat forward, his elbows on the bench, voice steady but charged. Miss Morrison, you've mentioned your father 4 times in the last 10 minutes. You say he'll handle this. You seem convinced he supports you. I'd like to hear that myself. Ashley blinked. Excuse me, I'm giving you an opportunity I've never offered any defendant. Call your father, right now, on speakerphone. The air went still. Even the hum of the courtroom's fluorescent lights felt louder. Every person, reporter, court watcher, veteran in the gallery held their breath. Her attorney jumped to his feet. Your Honor, I don't think. Sit down, Counselor Judge Caprio said without looking at him. Your client has built her entire defense on the assumption of her father's protection. Let's test that assumption. Ashley's face lost color. He's probably busy. He's in a meeting. That didn't stop you from invoking his authority. If you were willing to use his title to avoid consequences, you can use it now to confirm them. Call him. With trembling hands, Ashley pulled her phone from her pocket. She scrolled, hesitating, then pressed Chief Morrison and placed the call on speaker. 1 ring, 2. Ashley, a man's voice came through. Deep, stern. What's wrong? I'm in a meeting. Her voice so loud moments ago was suddenly small. Dad, I'm in court with Judge Caprio. I need you to explain things. There was silence. Then, you're in court right now for the accident. Yeah, but this judge is being totally unfair. He's saying I was drunk. Ashley, stop talking. The tone in Chief Morrison's voice changed. It wasn't protective. It wasn't gentle. It was absolute. Let me speak to the judge. Caprio leaned toward the mic. Calm, respectful. Chief Morrison, this is Judge Frank Caprio. Your daughter is charged with DUI, reckless endangerment, destruction of property, and fleeing the scene. She's repeatedly invoked your name. I wanted to give you the chance to speak directly to the court. A pause. Everyone could feel it. Then the chief's voice returned, measured, heavy. Your Honor, my daughter is 22. She's an adult, and she needs to face the consequences of her choices like any adult would. Ashley looked stunned, as if someone pulled the floor from beneath her. Dad, what are you saying? Be quiet and listen, Ashley. You could have heard a pin drop. I've been a police officer for 28 years. I've arrested drunk drivers. I've seen mothers weep because someone like you killed their child. And when you drove drunk, hit someone's car, lied about it, and ran, you didn't just break the law. You betrayed everything I've stood for." The courtroom didn't move. He went on. "When my officers came to question her, she lied to them, repeatedly. Even after I showed her the evidence, she said, 'Why are you making such a big deal? You can make it go away.' That's when I realized I failed as a father." Ashley's voice cracked. "Dad, please." "I love you, Ashley, but I won't protect you from this. I've protected you too many times. And all it taught you was that the rules don't apply to you. That ends today." There was no screaming, no drama, just silence and heartbreak. "Judge Caprio," the chief continued, "I support whatever sentence you impose. No phone calls, no favors, no interference. She needs to face this." Caprio's voice softened. "Chief Morrison, what you've just done took more courage than most parents will ever know. Thank you." "I love you, Ashley," the chief said again. "But right now, I'm ashamed of you. Serve your sentence. Learn. Become someone I can be proud of." The line went dead. Ashley collapsed into her chair sobbing. But the court had just witnessed something extraordinary. A father who chose truth over protection, who chose justice even when it meant breaking his own heart. Ashley Morrison sat in silence. The girl who once walked in like nothing could touch her was now trembling, face buried in her hands, tears sliding between her fingers. The courtroom was frozen, still reeling from the raw public honesty of Chief Morrison's words. A father's love, stripped down to the hardest truth it had ever spoken. Judge Frank Caprio sat back. He took a moment. Then he leaned forward. "Miss Morrison," he began, his voice low and deliberate, "your father just gave you something you may not recognize today, but someday you will." She didn't look up. "He gave you a gift, the kind most people never receive. He gave you accountability, and that is love at its most painful and most powerful." Ashley shook with quiet sobs. "You grew up with protection, privilege, a last name that opened doors. But the moment you stepped into this courtroom, you became like everyone else, equal before the law." He paused. "And the law doesn't bend for designer jackets or police chiefs' daughters." The room stayed silent. The only sound was Ashley's breathing, shallow and ragged. Judge Caprio opened the sentencing folder. "For driving under the influence, you are sentenced to 90 days in the Providence County Correctional Facility. For leaving the scene of an accident with property damage, an additional 60 days served consecutively. Your license is suspended for 3 years." Ashley closed her eyes as if trying to disappear. But Caprio continued, "You will pay restitution to Miss Sarah Chen in the amount of $8,000 for her totaled vehicle and $800 for her destroyed phone. You will complete 300 hours of community service working with victims of DUI-related incidents. You will attend mandatory substance abuse treatment and meet monthly with a probation officer for the next 2 years." Ashley's lawyer began to speak, but Caprio raised his hand. "Don't, not today." Then he looked at Ashley one last time. "This sentence isn't about punishment. It's about truth. You endangered lives. You destroyed property. You lied to police. And you showed no remorse until your father refused to save you." He leaned forward. "But today, justice was served. Not just by the court, but by a father who chose principle over protection." He picked up the gavel. "Miss Morrison, your father said he's ashamed of you. I hope you use your time in custody to become someone he can be proud of again." Bang! The gavel came down. A sentence was passed. But the lesson that was just beginning. Ashley Morrison served her sentence. 90 days, then 60 more. No shortcuts, no early release. Just time to reflect, to break down, and slowly to rebuild. When she walked out 5 months later, she wasn't the same woman who had once rolled her eyes in Judge Caprio's courtroom. She was quieter, slower in her speech. She'd completed every hour of her court-ordered service working with families devastated by drunk driving people who'd lost brothers, sisters, children. She'd cried more in those community meetings than she had in jail. And somewhere in that slow, painful process, she changed. Ashley wrote a letter to Sarah Chen, a real one, handwritten, not typed. She apologized, genuinely. She offered to pay any additional expenses. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She only hoped Sarah could find peace. Sarah never replied, but she did accept the funds, and in silence perhaps offered the first step toward forgiveness. As for Ashley's father, Chief Morrison, the wound of that courtroom call ran deep, but love the kind that tells the truth doesn't vanish. Their first dinner after her release was quiet. No speeches, just 2 people sitting at the same table again. And then slowly they talked about everything, about choices, and about starting over. 3 years later, Ashley Morrison stood before a high school assembly. She was invited by a nonprofit that educates teens about the dangers of impaired driving. She wore no makeup, no designer brands, just jeans and a sweater. She told her story, every hard, humiliating detail. And at the end, she played the audio of that phone call. The room went silent. Some students looked stunned. Some were wiping tears. Ashley looked at them and said, "That was my dad, choosing to do what was right instead of what was easy. That phone call, it saved my life." She paused. If you think your last name will protect you, it won't. If you think someone will always clean up after your mistakes, they won't. And honestly, they shouldn't. She ended with one last truth. I used to think love meant being rescued. Now I know. Real love sometimes means letting you fall and helping you stand back up when you're ready. If this story moved you, share it. Someone out there needs to hear it. Like if you believe in second chances, subscribe if you believe in truth and justice and in Judge Caprio's quiet strength. Because justice isn't just about punishment, it's about restoration. And sometimes the hardest love is the one that tells you, I won't protect you this time because I believe you can become better than this.